Second condition is what we call an untrue condition. Once again, these definitions are not that fucking creative. So we could say, for example, if I had $1 million, I would buy 1,000,000 caixinhas. If you're not in Brazil, then you obviously don't know what a caixinha is. And it's like, growing up in an environment where you've never felt your mom and dad hug you. It's kind of the same thing. What are we doing here? So we'll look at grammar first. And we say, okay, we're going one step backwards. So what's the past of the present? Well, that's the past, right? That's easy. And so then the past will becomes would. And so that's it. Would is always our kind of theoretical thing in our head. When we're trying to work out possible outcomes, would allows us to do that. All right, so what are we doing here? It's not just an untrue condition. Yes, I don't have $1 million. Yes, I can't buy 1,000,000 caixinhas. That's how I learned this when I first started teaching 15 years ago. That's how grammar books told me to teach it. But that's not what's happening here. What's happening is we're engaging in the same reason that people spend the last of their disposable income in the lottery, and they make these private organizations richer, and they make their lives more miserable. Wishful thinking. What is wishful thinking? Wishful thinking is imagining a perfect world. In this case, you're not looking at how you got the $1 million. In this perfect world, you did something to get $1 million. You're just spending your available time on your sofa imagining what you would do with that $1 million. This is wishful thinking. And this is the most common use of this grammar structure. You say, there's nothing wrong with that, Ken. That's what people do all day long. Yeah, well, and eventually you come back to reality and go, I've only got 2 caixinhas. Yeah, you think your life is fucking miserable now. You're pissed off because you've only got 2 caixinhas. Even though if I bought 1,000,000 caixinhas, which I would totally do, and that's just out of disrespect for $1 million, I would eat 2 and the rest would be rotting in the back garden. Absolutely. So, can we use this grammar structure then for something more positive? Well, we can. So let's look at this same dilemma. If I had $1 million, I would buy 1,000,000 caixinhas. Well, the problem is how the fuck do you get $1 million? No idea. So, because I'm a teacher. Well, let's look at this then. Well, if we invested our disposable income, how do you spell disposable? Our disposable income, we would have the $1 million to buy 1,000,000 caixinhas in 15 years. So the difference between these two sentences is that in the first sentence, our focus is only imagining going out with $1 million in our hand and buying things. And we get that dopamine, we feel good, we feel amazing. That's like when you go and buy your lottery ticket, you imagine putting on the greatest rock concert ever in your back garden, sitting back with all your idols, and they're all telling you you're so amazing. And then paying off everyone's mortgages, buying a helicopter, doing all sorts of crazy shit. And it's a wonderful feeling. But like every time you play the lottery, when you finally get to that 12th game, you come back to that crushing reality that in your job, you're impotent, ineffectual, and invisible, that you hate your job, you hate the place where you live, your house is full of mold, your dog is incontinent, your children don't like you in the one bit, and your wife may or may not be having an affair with the guy who works at a video library down the street, and you're amassed to the thought that there's still video libraries, but that video library only exists for discontent housewives. And so you come back to this crushing reality that your life is unfixable. Well, it is fixable if you just, took your disposable income and just put it towards fixing it or did something. But you come back to this element where you end up resenting your life. You do. You look back and you're like, ugh, God, because you want to be in that dream again. And so that's why this structure is fucking terrible. But in this one, what are we doing? We're using the same structure, but instead of focusing on the outcome, we're focusing on how to get that $1 million. We're focusing only on the condition in this case. And so this is not wishful thinking. This is abstract problem solving. Kian, learn how to spell for the love of broken unicorn cups. Abstract problem solving or creative thinking. This is a creative mind at its best. It's piecing together a puzzle and going, well, what if we tried this and this and this and this and this? Oh man, that might work, that might work. Instead of what we normally do when we're sitting on our sofa on a Sunday and we're bored, is we just imagine that someone or something, we had already done something amazing. And now all we have to do in this part is to figure out what we spend all that on. So this one here doesn't have any negative downside to it whatsoever.